Pregnancy loss is never fun to talk about, and it's definitely not fun to experience either. But the truth is, it's a reality for a lot of women, and it happens for so many different reasons. So, in this video, I want to share some of the different reasons why women miscarry, excuse me, and what you can do to prevent it. So, keep watching. Peace and infinite blessings and rainbows to you. My name is Sunshine Cummings. I'm a mindset coach, healer, and doula, and you are watching Heal with Sunshine TV. All right, so a very common reason why women miscarry. Who's going on my throat? Allergy season. Okay, number one is low iron. Low iron. Iron is an essential mineral, especially in pregnancy. It's so important for women to have iron because iron is like magnetic, and it is the mineral that helps to pull in all the other minerals. So you need your calcium, you need your magnesium, your potassium, you need all these other minerals, zinc, copper, manganese, right? And iron is like the foundational mineral that helps to attract or to pull in all those other minerals in the body. So when you're low in iron, it's kind of like you pretty much low in everything else, essentially, because the iron is what helps your body absorb all the other minerals, because they kind of like attract to the iron, like magnetic, right? Iron ore, y'all chemistry, science, you remember that stuff, right? But anywho, so iron is so essential. So that's one reason. And that can happen at any point. That can happen first trimester, second trimester. Iron is so essential. Another reason is weak cervix. The medical world, they call it incompetent cervix, but our cervixes are not incompetent. They know what to do. They were designed to do what they do, but they may just be weak because of a lack of nutrition, anything, lack of strong muscles in that area, like your ligaments, your round ligaments, or just your uterus itself may need to be toned. It may not be as strong as it needs to be in order to support a pregnancy. I know that was my issue, probably the low iron as well. I know I was anemic during pregnancy, but I believe that my main issue, because my water broke at 22 weeks twice. So my main issue was weak cervix. They called it incompetent cervix, but if I would have accepted that, then that's what I would have been telling my body. It's incompetent, right? So watch your words. Your words are very important. So weak cervix, that was my issue, which caused my water to break twice at 22 weeks. So early, but not so early, right? Because it was definitely the second trimester already. But for me, my issue was it was definitely iron, of course. But as far as the weak cervix, it's when the cervix starts to either shorten and or open. So it starts to get shorter and shorter. So as the baby gets bigger, right around that 20 week, that's when it kind of starts to sit on the cervix. So if you have a weak cervix, it can start to get short, where the baby's head is like right there ready to bust through it, where it's supposed to kind of stay, a certain length throughout the pregnancy. And then it starts to get shorter and shorter the closer you get to birth. So for some women, it's really short. And then because of that, the head presses right down on it. It starts to open. Okay. And then that could cause the water bag to kind of come through and break prematurely. So weak cervix, that is another common, I would say it's common cause of miscarriage for women. And that typically, if it's an issue with weak cervix, it typically happens later in the first trimester or into the second trimester. Usually with the low iron, that's a miscarriage that would happen usually very early on, but can also happen in the second trimester too, like if you're not well nourished throughout the pregnancy. Number 3 is low progesterone. Low progesterone, I know a lot of women who deal with PCOS or infertility, right, who struggle to get pregnant. A lot of times the issue is low progesterone in the first place, which is why you're struggling to get pregnant. So it is super important that progesterone levels remain high during pregnancy, because that's what helps to sustain the pregnancy until the placenta takes over. When the placenta takes over in about 12 weeks, so like around the second trimester of pregnancy, that's when the placenta starts to produce progesterone. And so your body kind of gets a break. But prior to that, you are responsible for maintaining the progesterone levels in your body so that the pregnancy can be sustained. So for a lot of women, if you were a woman who struggled to get pregnant, I would look into progesterone levels. Chances are your progesterone, jeez, could be low. Gosh, I'm out of my herbs. And my bottle of water is across the room somewhere because it was herb time. Anywho, so yes, progesterone, low progesterone. You want your progesterone levels to remain high throughout the pregnancy until the placenta takes over. Fourth reason, Rh factor issues. So, people have, we have blood types, right? We have like A positive, B positive, B negative, AB, O positive, O negative, whatever. That negative or that positive, that's called the rhesus factor. So it's your Rh factor, the rhesus factor. And when a woman and a man create a baby together or they conceive, when their blood types are different, that can create issues within the body. It just depends on the blood type of the baby. If the baby's blood type ends up being different from the mom's, and she's carrying a baby who has a different rhesus factor than she has, then the body can start to look at that as a threat or an invader in the body and send things to attack it. If you've been pregnant before and like really didn't know about that, or you didn't get, there's a shot that they give that can help prevent this from happening. If you didn't get that shot, if you didn't know whether your partner and you had different Rh factors and your blood's mixed and all these different things, then it could be a reason for miscarriage without women knowing that that's the cause, right? So that's another reason. I wouldn't say that's really common, but it's another reason that some women miscarry. And then 5, spiritual reasons. Y'all knew I was going to say that. It could be spiritual stuff. I talked about this in the last video where I discussed this obsession that some women have with wanting to hurry and get pregnant, and this urgency, and not dealing with the spiritual or the root cause issues as to why your pregnancies aren't being sustained. Because a lot of times it could be something spiritual happening, something you need to look at. There may be some relationships that you need to heal. There may be some healing you need to do within yourself. Maybe your heart chakra is blocked, or your sacral chakra is blocked, or whatever. Maybe you want a baby for the wrong reasons. We don't know. I'm not here to judge. I'm just giving you the information so that you can do with it what you need to do. But you have to be honest with yourself. You have to be honest. So those are the 5 reasons that I wanted to share: low iron, weak cervix, low progesterone, Rh factor issues, and some spiritual issues. So now I want to tell you, what can you do about it, right? So if you have low iron, if low iron is your issue, and whether it is or not, I think all pregnant women need to be making sure that their iron levels are sustained and maintained throughout the pregnancy for many reasons, because once you get to the birth, you're going to lose blood. So that's another thing. It needs to just be sustained it needs to be maintained to sustain the pregnancy, and then also to make sure that you give birth, and when you give birth that you are healthy after as well. Okay, but my main sources for iron, I suggest herbs and food. I do not recommend or support those pills that the doctors prescribe iron pills. Not at all. Anything that's going to make your body be constipated means that your body is not digesting it properly. It does not recognize it. And so it is creating a problem. If it's constipating you, then it's likely a form of iron that your body does not recognize as iron. It's probably something synthetic. It is something synthetic, man-made, and your body does not recognize it. When you eat food, your body recognizes it as food. It's able to break it down. When you take herbs, herbs are essentially food. It's God's medicine. Your body's able to recognize it and break it down within your body. It does not cause constipation. If anything, a lot of the herbs that help to boost your iron actually help you maintain regularity, bowel movements, right? So the herbs that I would recommend, the main ones, star sarsaparilla. Like, research that. One of the top, or probably the top herb for iron, for building blood, building iron in the body. Another one is burdock root. I love burdock root because it helps build the blood and also helps cleanse the blood as well. And then yellow dock root, because again, when you take these man-made pills, these synthetic drugs or supplements, right, the body does not recognize it because the iron is extracted from the whole. So the body, the synergy of, like, when you get iron from a plant-based source or a food, when you get iron that way, the body recognizes the whole plant, the whole herb, the whole fruit, the whole whatever it is that you're getting the source of iron from. It recognizes it, and it's in all of the measurements that God intended for it to be in, right? It was not extracted out of something, which is why when you take those pills where it's just iron that was taken from something or created, the body does not recognize it and it cannot break it down, and then you become constipated, right? But yellow dock, I love yellow dock because if you don't know, iron and vitamin C work really well together. They kind of need to be together because vitamin C helps to transport the iron into the cells where they need to be. Otherwise, these pills, you have them, right? And they're just kind of like floating around. What is helping them to get into the cells where they belong? So iron and vitamin C go really well together. So when you do eat iron-rich foods, it's really good to eat them alongside something that's high in vitamin C as well. And that's why I love yellow dock, because yellow dock also helps to purify the blood and to build the blood, but it's also very high in vitamin C as well. So when you pair yellow dock with something like burdock or sarsaparilla, it helps to actually get the iron where it needs to go inside the body. So I would highly recommend those herbs. Research those. Spinach, I would say stay away from. A lot of people think that spinach is high in iron, a lot of leafy greens, and they can be, but spinach is also high in calcium, and some of those greens are also very high in calcium. And the way that iron and vitamin C work together, calcium and iron work the complete opposite. So they kind of like, they compete for that space. So when you take iron-rich foods or herbs with calcium-rich foods or herbs, they're blocked. The calcium takes precedence, and then the iron is blocked. And so you're eating all this iron, thinking you're getting iron, but then you're pairing it with calcium, and you're not getting shit. Okay, so I don't recommend spinach. Also, with high in oxalates and just things that are not really good for the body when you take it in large amounts, right? All right, so weak cervix. What can you do to prevent miscarriage caused by weak cervix? Uterine strengthening activities, aka Kegels. Do them right now. Every time I hear that word, I start doing Kegels. Like, oh, let me do some Kegels, right? So I would suggest either put an alarm on your phone or in your phone throughout the day, like a couple of times or 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, whatever, throughout the day, to remind you to do your Kegels. Okay? And if you don't know what that is, research that. But essentially, you're just squeezing your vaginal muscles. You're squeezing, and then you kind of gradually release, like elevator. There's different exercises that you can do. You can squeeze and hold and release, squeeze, hold, and gradually release, gradually squeeze, whatever, right? Look up Kegels. Do some Kegels. Uterine strengthening exercises. That's what that is. And obviously, herbs. There are herbs that you can take to strengthen the uterus as well. Red raspberry leaf is probably the top herb. That's the main one that I'm going to recommend, especially with you being pregnant. It is safe in pregnancy. But I'm not a doctor, whatever. So do your own research, make your own decision, consult with your healthcare provider, your doctor, your midwife, whatever, and make your own decisions, okay? With their support and help and guidance and all that. However, red raspberry leaf, I've taken throughout my entire pregnancies. The pregnancies that with my rainbow baby and my pot of gold, 6-hour labors, start to finish. I'm talking active. No, start to finish. Well, yeah. About 4 hours of active labor, maybe something like that, 2 hours, somewhere around there. But 6 hours from the time contractions like really got going and I was in active labor, 6 hours for both, for the most part. Red raspberry leaf is amazing for the uterus. It is like the number one uterine tonic, meaning herb that tones the uterus. So look into that. Red raspberry leaf. Amazing throughout pregnancy and definitely helps. Definitely helps. I don't care what anybody says. It helps with a smooth labor and birth. Okay? That uterus going to be working. It's going to do its thing. It's going to contract. It's going to push down. The cervix is going to open beautifully. And things are going to flow. Okay? Also, and this is a medical procedure. And I did this prior to me knowing that my body was capable of healing something like a weak cervix. The way that the medical community talks about weak cervix and weak cervix, miscarriage in relation to weak cervix is like once you have a weak cervix, you're going to always have to have a cerclage. And that's what I thought because I didn't really know, even though I was studying midwifery to be a home birth midwife at the time of my pregnancies and my losses. That is not something that we really discussed in detail. And we really didn't focus a lot on herbs and how they can heal some of these issues, right? Well, we did like, miscarriage, but not when it came to like physical, like structural issues within the body. Okay? So when you do your Kegels and you take your herbs like red raspberry leaf, it helps to tone and strengthen the uterus when you do that. So those are things that you can do to help prevent weak cervix in the first place. But if you are in a position where you know that you have a weak cervix and you don't have enough, like you haven't had enough time to really take the herbs, do the exercises, and or maybe you're still fearful, still concerned, still anxious, you don't know, and you just want to be on the safe side, there is something called a cerclage, CERCLAGE, that doctors can do. It's considered getting surgery in pregnancy, but it's not like they're not cutting you open or anything. They just numb you. You get a spinal in your spine. You're numbed from like the waist down, maybe under the boobs, like the chest underneath down. And they just go in and it's like they tie. Every doctor uses something different. I've had both. It was the one that was kind of like wiry and then one that was more like a cloth. But they go in and use whatever materials they use, go in, and it's like they're tying your cervix shut until you get to full term. And then they cut it out, but not 40 weeks, but maybe like 36, 37. Every doctor is different. I've had one cut out at 37. I've had one cut out at about like 36. They cut it out, and by that point, it's safe for your baby to come. If it comes early, chances are they won't. Usually you pass that phase where the head is pressing down on the cervix and the water bag's gonna break. Like the water bag by this point is kind of like evened out. So for me, when my cerclages were removed, I still went probably about another week and a half, 2 weeks of being pregnant with both. Okay, so that is a procedure you can talk to your doctor about getting if you want to be a little bit more proactive and want to take a little bit more action just to soothe your worries and your fears and concerns and just really want to be on the safe side. Cerclage. Okay, the RH factor issue. Wait a minute. Oh, low progesterone. I'm like, what? We talked about weak cervix. My notes are all over the place. So number 3 is low progesterone. So you probably heard of maca root. I sure did. If you are a mom or a pregnant woman who struggled to get pregnant, maca root is all over the internet. It's all over the place as an herb to take, a root to take to help with maintaining pregnancy, getting pregnant. Because a lot of women, again, when you struggle to get pregnant due to low progesterone, it can also cause miscarriage, right? Because you don't have enough progesterone to even get pregnant, then you get pregnant, and then you need more to sustain the pregnancy. So maca root is popular, but that's not one that I really recommend. I don't really recommend maca root. There are so many others that you can look into as far as progesterone. There are also creams that you can use. Some are very, very, very synthetic and not good for you. Others are more bioidentical, meaning they match or resemble, very, very, very closely resemble the progesterone that you already produce, that you produce. And so sometimes you may need that, and that can work. But usually you need a lot more of that than you need of like the synthetic ones. But I stay away from all things synthetic, right? So look into bioidentical progesterone creams and lotions and all that stuff. There's also progesterone pills like that you can put up in your yoni, your vagina. You put them up in there, and that kind of releases progesterone throughout your bloodstream by putting, like, directly inserting it. A suppository, that's what they call them. Okay. And then there are shots. Now, again, I was in that desperate phase or stage after my 2 losses. So whereas when I got pregnant, I was studying to be a home birth midwife, right? I was like, I don't want any of y'all's interventions. I don't even want you using a Doppler on me. I'll hear the heartbeat when I get to like 20 weeks, and we can use a fetoscope. I don't want any ultrasounds. I don't want any of that stuff. Well, after losses, there's a lot of anxiety there. There's a lot of concern. There's a lot of like, what ifs, right? That happens. So I understand sometimes the desire or the desire to want or desire to use or rely on medicine or medical intervention. So again, no judgment, because that was me too. I'm like, look, whatever it's going to take to have my babies. So I did get the progesterone shots. I think the main brand is called Makena, Makena. That's one. That's like the not the generic. What's the generic? No, the name brand version, I believe. And then the generic, I forget what that's called, but it's like some type of synthetic progesterone. Child. Did that help me stay pregnant? Because I had the cerclage, and usually it's standard when you get the cerclage, you're also prescribed these progesterone shots that you get weekly, and they come and shoot you in your ass or your thigh or whatever, right, to help your progesterone levels be maintained. The issue I see with that now, knowing what I know, it's kind of like they're just troubleshooting. Like, we don't know if you're not staying pregnant because you have low progesterone, or if it's because your cervix, because we gave you the cerclage. If it's a matter of my cervix being weak, then the cerclage should just do the job, right? Why do I need progesterone? If it's an issue of I have low progesterone, well, why can't we just focus on giving me more progesterone and see if that helps me to stay pregnant? So, whatever. But it's standard. They give you the cerclage, and then you do the progesterone shots. I do not recommend that. Again, natural is best. The more natural route you can go, the better. Okay? Even with the cerclage and they recommend the shots, do your research. Do your research. Don't be so hasty that you do like I did and potentially take things that can affect your health later and or affect the health of your baby. Okay. All right, then the fourth thing is the rhesus factor issue, the RH factor issue. So with that, I mentioned there's a shot that a lot of women take. So if you've been pregnant before and have had miscarriages and know that you and your partner had different blood types, and possibly there was a chance that your blood mixed with the baby's blood and the baby's blood was a different blood type than yours, usually if you know that's the case, what your providers would do is give you a shot called Rogam. You get a Rogam shot, and that's to help you when you get pregnant again in the future, to prevent that from happening, to prevent your body from seeing your baby's blood as an invader and attacking it, and thus attacking the pregnancy and causing it to terminate. Right. Some women, a lot of women have missed miscarriages or miscarriage. They don't know that they had a miscarriage and that could have possibly happened. I'm going to be honest with y'all. I don't know what happens in that situation. If you've had a miscarriage before and you're not really sure if that could have been the cause and you keep having more and more miscarriages after, I'm not sure if there's a procedure that can be done to check to see if that could have possibly happened before and you missed your chance to get the Rogam shot. I don't know, but that's something you can talk to your doctor about, do some research about it. Doctors don't know everything, okay? Sometimes you just gotta put on your big girl panties, put on your detective hat, and do your own research. This is your body. This is your desire for you to have this rainbow baby. Doctors, they get paid regardless of whether you get what you desire or not. So do your research. Ask questions. Ask other women. Ask doctors. Ask whoever. Ask herbalists. Ask naturopaths. Like, don't just take their word for everything. Google, YouTube, all of that. Okay. Then the fifth one, spiritual. So what can you do if the cause of your miscarriage is spiritual? Well, first of all, you would need to know whether that's the case. You've exhausted all your other options, or you haven't, and you just want to know up front. You can seek counsel. You can seek counsel from like a spiritual advisor, maybe someone who reads tarot cards. They can do some readings to kind of find out what's the underlying issue, what's going on spiritually, if there's a spiritual cause. There's different spreads that can be done. There's like past, present, future spreads, right? I love that. That's like my favorite spread. And they can see what maybe happened in the past, what's going on with you right now, and then kind of what you need to do to kind of have the outcome you desire for the future. I love that spread. Like, look into tarot readers and get help that way. You can look into your astrology, because sometimes it's not in your chart right now, and here you are just struggling unnecessarily because it's just not your time, right? It's just maybe not your time, maybe in 2 years or 1 year or what have you. A lot of times we get so caught up in wanting what we want because of society, because of our family, because of our friends, and it just may not be in God's divine timing right now for you. I'm not saying that's the case, but it could be, as far as a spiritual blockage. Or card readings, like playing. That was one of my alarms to remind me to say my affirmations that just went off. But I'm back. All right. But playing cards is called, what do they call it? Cardology? No. Cardology, I believe. Cardomancy. Look up cardology, right? There are people who do card readings. Essentially, they're like tarot readings, but using regular playing cards. And a lot of times those also incorporate astrology. So with cardology, it's like you're getting the best of both worlds. You're kind of getting the tarot in a sense, but also coupled with your astrology. So look into that as well. But yeah, I would just say seek counsel. You can also like consultations with someone like me, like a doula, a mindset coach, just to get some more clarity, some understanding, to kind of talk through issues you may be facing in your life, in your relationship, in your business, in your finances, in your health, like just to kind of get a overall holistic view and picture of where you are and what may be causing your struggle, what may be causing your loss, right? So those are 5 common, some not so common, but 5 reasons why women miscarry. A lot of times we just think that women just, oh, we just miscarried, and don't really realize that no, there are real reasons why it happens. And I really wanted to share this video because some of you may have some of these real reasons why it's happening, and may have an incompetent provider who's not teaching you these things. They're not informing you about these things, and you don't know where to look, where to turn. Like, and you're like, that was me. Like, why did this happen? I was so after my first loss. Like, what did I do? Is there something I could have done different? What happened? Because they, at the time, were telling me they don't know. They did not tell me I had a weak cervix. They did not say it's low progesterone. They didn't say, oh, you're anemic. They told me nothing. They're like, they don't know why it happened. Then when it happened again, then it was like, oh, you fit the profile for incompetent cervix. Like, okay, but my first loss, because there was nothing they couldn't backtrack. They told me nothing. So I didn't know. Okay, let me start taking these herbs, or let me start doing these exercises. Let me look into increasing my progesterone. Let me make sure that my iron is boosted. I just didn't know. So I don't want that for you. If you are like racking your brain trying to figure out why is this happening? Why do you keep having pregnancy losses? And you are not getting answers. Now you have some real concrete reasons that you can start to kind of research and look into. Maybe you can get some testing to see if you're anemic. Really, you don't even need testing. You can tell if you're anemic or not. There's ways. And maybe I'll do a video on that. Let me know in the comments if that's something that you want me to do. Make a video on like how you know if you have some of these issues going on or not without having to get medical intervention or testing or things like that done. Okay. Yeah, so hope this was helpful. Make sure you like, share, comment. If you have any questions, leave those in the comment box below, the boxes. Yeah. Um, and subscribe if you have not already subscribed to my channel. I thank you. You got this. I'm here for you. Peace, infinite blessings, and rainbows to you.